Welcome to another episode of the Mad Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts, Begley, Goni, and Wayne.
What is up, Mad Mob? We are back at it for the Friday episode, Honesty Hour, where we go over where we had our preseason wide receiver rankings compared to the ADP and where they actually finished, and give you all a little insight on what got them there. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good, man. It's good to be back on.
Wonderful.
Combine started today. Any spicy people you see? Well, I didn't necessarily start today, but did you see anybody good today?
I haven't. I mean, I didn't pay attention to any of that stuff just yet, really. Just been busy with things here and there, honestly. But in the news, I mean, I saw Rashad Bateman was calling out the GM. It's really the only football-related news I've kind of been in tune to, as well as Aaron Rodgers is going to make a decision. I guess he's still undecided after his darkness retreat.
Yeah, as a resident Kentucky fan, Wayne, I look forward to Will Levis being an absolute athletic freak at the combine, somebody overdrafting him, and then being severely disappointed.
He's going top 5 in all the mocks right now.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't happen, because the last time we had somebody drafted this high was Tim Couch, and the poor guy went to the Browns.
Yeah. The other things I saw was there's some news that Evan Ingram is getting the tag in Jacksonville. And the Chargers GM has publicly stated that Keenan Allen will not be traded.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Take that for what it's worth. I don't know why they would keep him. I mean, I'm sure Khalil Mack's probably gone. But I think I saw
$14 million cap hit.
Yeah, and they're $20 million over. So he would essentially eliminate the problem just for his contract alone. Also,
Oh.
I think he.
Sorry, Gone. Leonard Fournette was released or is going to be released.
Saw that coming.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you could see the difference last year with Keenan Allen on the field and off the field. Same thing with Justin Herbert. Just his performances in the games where Keenan Allen was available. He's a nice safety blanket, so I don't hate it. It's just now you have to scramble to make other moves to get back under the cap.
Yeah. What about the Falcons releasing Marcus Mariota?
See ya.
Saw it coming.
ya.
What about the Commanders releasing Carson Wentz?
See ya.
Didn't see that coming, but, not a big deal.
Yeah.
Where does he go? He's a backup, right? Anywhere he goes, he's a backup.
I see him being the last quarterback signed as a team that's desperate. Maybe Arizona to fill in until Kyler gets there.
Yeah, I could see that. Or a team that just they fail to get a quarterback in the draft that really needs one, like a Carolina maybe.
It's fair.
I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Leonard Fournette will be a hot commodity.
Someone will pick him up for depth, if anything. He'll have a job for sure.
He'll show up to camp 300 pounds.
Yeah, boy, playoff Lenny.
I'm sad that y'all didn't, do a lot of combine watching. You know me, I'm big into my forte is rookies coming in. I draft pretty well. I don't know. I think this league is going to have to take a quick turn to pass heavy, because these linebackers and edge rushers that showed up today were stupid. There were 6 linebackers that ran a sub 4.5. There's the Northwestern edge rusher. He's like 6'2", over 280, and my man ran a sub 4.5. 38-inch vertical, broad jump over 10 feet.
Nuts.
At 280, these edge rushers and these linebackers are like freaks of nature now that can run sub 4.5s in the mid 200s.
Yeah.
Game is ever changing, man. It's always better athletes coming out.
How are you supposed to
every
run
year.
against that? There's so many.
That's
of
why
them.
the game has already been moving towards the pass. Really, that's why running backs don't get any love. They don't get paid. They don't have long careers. The shelf life is very small.
At what point do you just not put
Throw
as much stock in them? You know what I mean? Because you know me, I'm a running back first guy all day, every day. But at what point am I just like, man, they're not big point getters anyways? It's kind of already happened. Like when if we were playing fantasy 6-7 years ago, when would we ever talking about? When would anybody ever say Jetta as the number one pick in a dynasty startup? Nobody would ever say that. You always go running back. But now, 5-6 years later, it's like you might go Jetta, then Jamar before taking a running back in a startup dynasty.
It's possible. Running backs will always have a spot, though, just because it's of the positional scarcity. Like, you only have so many studs. Sorry, Biggs.
No, you're good. They'll always be relevant, too, just because of the touchdown potential, right? Running backs generally score more touchdowns than wide receivers. I think the other thing, too, is it's the position is changing, Wayne, right? You value pass catchers. If you can't catch the ball out of the backfield, your A.J. Dillon is your ceiling, unless you're just a freak like Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
or Chubb. Those are the unicorns of
and
that
Chubb is
kind of mold.
Chubb is he's just stupidly efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, those are like Begg said, those are really the only guys that, with the exception of A.J. Dillon, really shine at the running back spot without really catching out of the backfield.
Yeah, and like Begley said, RIP to your longevity if you have to get utilized so much that you're not a pass catcher and still a RB1.
Yep.
But looking forward to tomorrow. The Combine is featuring DBs tomorrow. Saturday's big day, quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends. And then we get to see the RBs on Sunday. So at the same time, I think it's 3 to 8 tomorrow. And then Saturday's a big day. I think it's like a 7 or 8 hour time slot.
Did you see Bryce Young said he's not going to throw?
Yeah. He doesn't have to.
I mean, it's smart, I think, in his part. Yeah. You can only go down.
Exactly.
Yeah. The other guy I was interested in was Jackson Smith-Njigba. Said he might skip the Combine. Dude's a mystery box, man. You don't know what he is.
Yeah.
What do you think about him, Wayne? Is that your number one right now?
Who is it?
Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Is he not going to the Combine at all?
He was talking about skipping the Combine. He publicly said he will not run the 40, and then there's scuttlebutt he might skip it altogether.
It's just not a good look.
And he sat out all year with a hamstring, supposedly.
It's almost like he's trying to cover himself because he kind of knows he's going to underperform. I don't.
He's got game tape, though, man.
Here's the deal, though. I feel like if you're a top pick, the Combine will not. Even if you have a mediocre Combine, it's not really going to drop your stock too much. The Combine is a place to raise your stock, not necessarily hurt it.
It can definitely hurt your stock, though. It can absolutely hurt your stock. Running backs are pretty big for that. For
not as much as it can help your stock. People that are affected positively are a lot greater than the people that are affected negatively in the Combine.
Let's say Bijan runs a 4.6.
That's what I'm saying.
Does that hurt his draft stock, Wayne?
He'll be the number one running back still taken. That's my point.
You might be the number one running back taken, but that's the difference between being a first rounder and getting bigger money and a 5th-year option over.
That's what I'm saying. But a 4.6 would be abysmal for him, and he would still be the number one running back. But let's say you take Tank, and he goes out and runs a 4.3, he might jump 2-3 people. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you can help yourself in a positive manner a lot more than you can help yourself in a negative or hurt yourself in a negative manner in the combine. If Bryce goes out and he does throw and he doesn't look that good, they got years and years of college to go by. They're not going to be like, oh no, he missed some passes and now he's not the number one overall. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're that dude already, you have the college tape, they know what you are, and you come in with a bad combine, they're not. You're going to be pretty essentially where you are. But if you have the college tape that's not showing a lot of potential, and you go in there and you dominate the combine, then people's ears perk up. They go, "Oh, okay, this guy's somebody." That's my point. Is of course a combine can negatively affect you, but I'm just saying it affects people. It's a lot easier to jump forward than it is to go backwards when you're already set as the number one running back, the number two running back, the number one receiver, the number two receiver. You know what I mean? Like you'll still be the number one regardless. Unless it's like a 1-2 situation, like last year when we had, a Jameson Williams, a Drake London, Garrett Wilson on all them, then yeah, they're all very close anyways, and that might help you. But I don't know. That's kind of my mindset on the combine. I kind of watch it a little bit more for defensive players, honestly.
I'm just going off the Jackson Smith and Jigba thing. Like, I wouldn't run if I was him. That's going to negatively affect you. Like, even if he is the number one receiver off the board, I'm not saying necessarily like that doesn't matter. But the difference between the money you're getting at, the 10 or 15 spot, as opposed to now that team at the 10 or 15 doesn't want you and you fall all the way back to like 30 or early second round, like that's an extra year of job security. That's money out of your pocket as well. That's what I mean by like negatively affecting. Like, of course they're going to make the NFL and stuff, but you're hurting your pockets. The NFLPA is trying to go away from the combine anyways.
That would be terrible though, man, because so many people they get in based on how well they do in the combine. But my thing with that is like, if I'm an NFL exec, not an NFL, a team exec, and there's a guy that I'm kind of want, I want to see his combine. And if he's skipping it, I'm going to be like, I wonder why he's skipping it. Because if I'm a stud and I know I'm a stud, I'm going to go out and show you I'm a stud. If I'm a little sketchy on, is my 40 good, then I'm going to skip it. So if I'm a GM or something, it's going to be weird to me. Like Prime hopped on a jet and ran in some slacks and loafers just to show like I'm that dude. Like I know what I can do. He went out there and ran a scorching 40-yard dash, hopped back on the jet, and went back home. But I don't
think it's about that. The biggest thing with the combine that people don't like is like they ask you all kinds of like intrusive, ridiculous questions. Prime is a perfect example. Actually, the Giants actually hit him up and brought him in and gave him like a phone book stack worth of papers and said everyone that that we're considering has to fill this out. And he was like, all right, what pick you got? And they said like, I think it was 10 or something at the time. And he was just like, nah, forget that. I'm going to be off the board by then. And just walked out. It's not the actual physical performing part that's hated the most. Like, of course, guys ain't going to want to drop their draft stock or, if they have a bad day or something like that, it could potentially hurt them. And I agree with you for sure, especially on the guys, the day 2 guys. I think day 2 and day 3 guys especially need the combine.
Yeah.
And that's really how you find your gems and diamonds in the rough at that point later on in the draft. So, yeah, I don't know. To each their own as far as like these guys, if they want to go out and do it. I agree. If you're a GM, you obviously want to be able to see, especially if you have your pick of the litter, you want to see what a guy's got.
Yeah, I agree. But, Joe Burrow skipped a lot of the combine. Chase Young did. I think if you're a dude, you can get by with it. Jalen Carter skipping the entire combine.
If you've got years of college tape, then it is what it is. Everybody knows what they're buying. You know what I mean? But when you got a guy like that who's missed a year, then I feel like you kind of got to say, I still got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into this. That was a good long intro. I love the combine. I could talk about these guys for a while. So we're going to kind of blow through these because they're just bad. I mean, WR2s were just bad all around. ADP missed, we missed, hit on a few, but it's just wide receivers are a dime a dozen, and there's some crap guys that can come out and be amazing. There's some good guys that can drop out. Injuries happen. I know this was just a crazy year for injuries.
So we're just such a volatile position.
Do what?
It's just a volatile position as well.
Yeah, exactly. Not defending, wherever we finished. So our wide receiver 13, we had Cortland Sutton. I had him at the 15. Beggs had him at the 19. Goni had him at the 10. ADP had him as the wide receiver 25, and he finished as a wide receiver 43. Only missed 3 games, finished with a little over 800 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chalking this one up to a terrible offense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no one really foresaw what was going to come out of that offense as far as how terrible it was and how they produced less points per game than they did last year with I don't even remember who it was, to be honest with you, but he wasn't good. You bring in Russell Wilson, you expect these things to go a little bit better.
It was Drew Lock.
Drew Lock.
And they had Kendall Hinton for a game.
Yeah, yes. So, yeah, of course, you bring in a guy like Russell Wilson and you expect them to take off, and it just never happened. And then kind of the other thing with that, for a lot of people, I know us going into the draft, a lot of analysts as well, it was kind of a coin flip between, who you thought was going to be the number one between Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy had all the advanced metrics in his favor. Cortland Sutton had, he broke out a little bit in his rookie year for over 1,000 yards. So, I mean, he's shown potential before. He got hurt the year after that. And he came back. He was healthy this year for the most part. But it just didn't even seem like he was the guy. It really looked like Jerry Jeudy took over on this terrible offense. So, I mean, really, it's a miss for everyone involved. If you drafted Cortland Sutton, you're not happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a physical jump ball touchdown, kind of a receiver. And for a team that didn't score a lot of touchdowns, it makes sense that his production suffered. Is what it is.
Yep. Number 14, a guy I planted my flag on and he let me down, and there's no other reason than just he didn't play well. We got Deontay Johnson. He was our consensus 14. ADP had him at the 13, though. He finished as a WR30. I had him as the 11. Begley had him as the 12. Goni had him as the 16. Never found pay dirt. Not a single time all year did this man find the end zone. And it wasn't, and this is why I'm like, I planted my flag and we just missed. He was in your starting lineup. He was a flex play, but we just thought after he got his contract, he's definitely the number one. This offense just wasn't good. Najee wasn't good. George Pickens came in and honestly wasn't that good either. He had some few highlight catches, but again, it's just a victim of poor offense. And even though I don't know if you all kind of have the same mindset, I don't necessarily care if the offense is not going to be too good as long as I know the volume's going to be there. And that's just what I thought was going to be the case for Deontay Johnson, and it just wasn't.
Go ahead, Biggs.
No, go ahead, Goni.
I was going to say, the volume was still there. He got 147 targets this year, but they're coming from the rookie targets.
Yeah.
Out of those 147 targets, he was only able to bring in 86. So, that's the highest, target amount, I guess is what we'll call it, that he's gotten over his career. But, yeah, like you said, you have to score touchdowns. This is the only year, being his 4th year in the league, where he's never scored a touchdown. He scored 5 in his rookie season, 7, 8 last year. The offense was bad. Like you said, it was bad all around. I don't know if maybe Pickett gets better next year. Who do you like? Do you like him or Pickens next year? Who's going first, I guess, is the question. Not who you like more, but who's going first in drafts?
Deontay. He's got the pedigree. For me, I had him at 12. It was a Mike Tomlin play, right? It's a good organization. I know 12 was probably a little optimistic, but man, Kenny Pickett didn't look good at all.
You had him at 20.
Oh, 20. Great job, man. Great call on my part. I hated the Mike Tomlin offense. I thought they were going to be atrocious. It showed in my rankings. Yeah, I didn't project them well out of college. Nah, but in all seriousness,
I was going to let you ride, but then I realized it was going to mess with the overall rankings, and I didn't want Goni or myself to win with that 8-point swing that happened on this.
Right.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett was just bad, man. There's just no other way around it. He was bad. The offensive line is bad. I don't know.
Yep. 15, we got Beggs' boy, T. Higgins. I had him at the 16. Beggs had him at the 14. Kind of a fade. I figured Beggs would have had him higher. Goni had him as the 19. He finished as a wide receiver 18. ADP had him at the 12. Missed 3 games. Finished with over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 9 games inside the top 24. Just an absolute ton of targets. Going into the final year of his rookie contract, haven't heard any rumors of him being traded or anything. He's over the last 3 years, he's been very consistent in his target share. So, what do you think? I guess we don't have to talk too much because our consensus was very close to where he finished. So I think where we had him kind of speaks for itself. But where do you see him? Where do you see his output in the future?
As our podcast's resident T. Higgins lover,
Yep.
right? I think T. Higgins next year is a fringe wide receiver 1. I'm going to probably have him at that 12-13 spot. I think on guys with contract years, I think you just see a little more volume, a little more work they produce, right? I think there's, teammates help them a little bit, try to get to the bag. I think there's kind of an unspoken agreement there. I think T. Higgins is a dude. Even if he leaves Cincy, I think he's got the talent. He's 6'4". I mean, he's a monster. He's a good route runner. He just needs to stay healthy. I think he's a great player.
That fringe wide receiver 1 isn't, out of the realm of possibilities at all. That's something that could definitely be likely. I mean, since his rookie year, he's only finished better every season. He was the wide receiver 28 as a rookie, wide receiver 24, and then just this year, finishing wide receiver 18. I mean, you see him, if he gets these 3 games, say he plays every game next season, and just the way the Bengals offense has shifted to more of a pass-first offense, it's definitely possible for him to hit like a 1,200-yard mark and maybe another 7 to possibly 10 touchdowns. You don't really know. So I could see it, man.
Yeah, easily. This offense is crazy.
I think my comp to him, just not as a player, but I think he's going to be like Calvin Ridley, who looked great when playing with Julio. When Julio left, Calvin kind of took that leap. I think Higgins, when he goes somewhere else, can be a bona fide 1 on a team.
That's fair.
All right. Our consensus 16. We had Chris Godwin. Goni and I had him at 18. Begley had him at 15. He finished as the 19. ADP had him at 20. Missed 2 games. Finished with over 1,000 yards, 3 touchdowns. Only put up single-digit points twice. Again, a bad offense. He did good just because Brady had to dump it off to him all the time. Had the lowest yards per catch of his career at 9.8. Again, we were very close to this one. He missed 2 games, so he very easily could have hit that 1,200-yard mark for 4 touchdowns. Didn't find pay dirt a lot just because the offense puttered out. But there was definitely a path for him to be better than he was. Now he's losing Tom Brady. What do you all think?
He honestly should have finished better than the wide receiver 19. I mean, I'm looking at his game logs, and those 2 single-digit games, those are the only times all season where you were disappointed in playing him. He broke double digits frequently, went on a good streak. 3 touchdowns, though, just isn't going to cut it. Mm-hmm. That's really what it is. It was a low for touchdowns for him, for sure. He PPR'd people to death. The offense was just bad. It was his lowest touchdown output since his rookie season. So I mean, kind of an outlier. I still like him going forward. I don't know if they're going to use him just primarily in the short game for the most part. He's got explosive, speed. He can get it done. It just depends who they bring in. Kyle Trask, man.
I was going to ask, Wayne, does Kyle Trask have value in a super flex?
Any starting quarterback has value in a super flex. It's very limited value, though.
Do you think Tampa rolls with Kyle Trask? A. And B, if they do you take a chance on him in a redraft with that receiving core?
No. If Tom Brady couldn't be an amazing quarterback, then I'm not banking on Kyle Trask being an amazing quarterback. Okay. I don't anticipate a Brock Purdy breakout. That being said, Trask has had 2 years behind the GOAT. Hopefully he learned. I really don't know what we have with him. I mean, he's a Florida guy. We watched him play in college in person several times. So we know what he is as far as college goes, but I have no idea what we have. I have no idea the improvements that he's made, learning from the best quarterback of all time. So we'll see. I mean, I really don't know. What I do know is Todd Bowles is one of the worst coaches in the NFL. So we'll see.
He has another chance this year to prove it.
You're a bad guy. Consensus 17. For some reason, I had this guy ranked lower than all of you all. I guess I just made y'all drink the poison. 17 is DJ Moore. I had him at 19. Beggs had him at 16. Goni had him at 17. He finished as the WR24. ADP had him at wide receiver 16. Finished with almost 900 yards, 7 touchdowns, 6 times in the top 24, 8 times outside the top 50. Lowest yards and reception totals since his rookie season, yet he had a career-high 7 touchdowns. We thought he was quarterback-proof, but we didn't realize how bad Baker Mayfield was. That man was trash cans.
Trash.
That being said, he picked it up towards the end of the year. So probably a new quarterback next year. If he continues, and this is just my opinion because I'm a DJ lover, if he can keep that hot streak that he had the last half of the year, I'm ranking him right up there again.
Man, I there's no way this isn't a bottom 5 offense in the NFL next year, right?
No way at all. They're terrible.
Terrible. I mean,
awful.
I'm going to fade DJ Moore just based off of the offense's prospectus as a whole, man. They're not going to score a lot of points. They're just not.
What if I told you that he got his second lowest targets of his career this year with 118? Hasn't been this bad since his rookie year when he had 82 targets. He had 163 last year, and he finished as the wide receiver 18.
Yeah, it's
Does that
terrifying.
change your mind?
It's terrifying that his targets were lower when he played without CMC and Robbie Anderson this year.
For a good portion. I mean, I think the talent's there. Before this year, it was all about the man just refuses to score touchdowns. He gets all kinds of receptions. He was like the lifeblood of the offense for the most part because CMC had just been hurt for the last 2 years, honestly, and they didn't have anything else. But, I mean, I think he's got potential. He was absolutely the definition of boomer bust, though. He was either getting you some good points, he's putting up 20, or he's going to give you like a 4 or a 5 or a 6. And like Wayne said, he really turned it on. If you played him during your fantasy playoffs, he gave you 18, 20, and 23. So it was a great way to finish the season. I'm sure that'll keep some good memories for those of everyone that won championships. But, I mean, I'm willing to take a chance on him next year, obviously for the right price.
He's the trade candidate. He's the perfect definition of a trade candidate. Carolina absolutely should move him for picks. I'd like to see Dallas go get him, personally.
That's what I was hoping for last year at the trade deadline. I was praying for that man to get traded, and they consider him a cornerstone piece. It's not going to happen. At least not yet.
I think
Give it time.
Happen.
Yeah.
There's no reason to keep him.
Think of all the people they've moved since getting him. They've moved Robbie Anderson. They've moved Curtis Samuel. That's their guy. And I'm sure he goes home and punches the air because of that very thought. But
frequently.
Moving on. Consensus 18, Goni's boy. Missed heavily. I had him as the WR24, Begley as the WR17, Goni as the WR15. ADP had him as the WR34. Finished as the WR71. Talking about Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, man. You plant hard, you fail hard. That's what I did this year. Planted the flag on Darnell Mooney. He was coming off of last season where he finished as the wide receiver 23 in his sophomore year. Man had 140 targets. Thought the sky was the limit for him. That got cut in half and then some. Man only had 61 targets this year. Kind of brutal. He missed a whole lot of games. He missed 5 and most of a 6th to finish the season. 493 yards, 2 touchdowns, career lows all across the board. Finished inside the top 24 only twice. And back to them targets. He averaged 8.2 targets a game last year. He dropped down to 5. And Justin Fields was running for his life all season, so that'll take away from, the passing game. They brought in Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool did nothing. So is Darnell Mooney, can he be a number 1? I don't think so. I think they probably try and bring in someone else, but I think he can be a very good number 2. But they just need to put pieces around Fields, honestly. They need to beef up the O-line, give this man some protection. Otherwise, it's not going to get off the ground.
I don't think I'd change my ranking, even knowing what we know now, right? I mean, it's a guy who's an absolute target hog with a quarterback he's got some rapport with, and the Bears didn't bring anybody to compete for targets with.
They tried.
Mooney they tried, but Mooney is an absolute volume play. He got injured, right? I mean, it is what it is. I stand by our ranking. I think the logic is sound.
It's just swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. Planted the flag hard and didn't come to fruition.
That's absolutely going to happen when it comes to receivers. Like Goni said earlier, it's the most volatile position, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Number 19, we got the stud himself, DK Metcalf. I had him at 21, Begley at 18, Goni at 20, finished as the WR16. ADP had him at 15. Finished with 90 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 6 tutties. He had a career high in targets and receptions, career low in tutties, 9 games inside the top 24, 5 games where he scored single digits, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. I think we all kind of faded him a little bit because obviously the Russell Wilson leaving situation, but Geno Smith went out and balled. I feel like his touchdown regression was due to Tyler Lockett showing, why he's been a stud in the past. Tyler Lockett had an amazing year, and I think that's kind of why his touchdowns went down. But Geno was great this year and absolutely peppered DK, and DK showed why he's that dude. He's a WR1 for me next year probably.
I don't know that I can get there with him, but he's a solid WR2, no doubt about it. As long as Lockett's there, though, I don't know that I can get Metcalf any higher than WR2, personally.
Yeah, I personally can't. I can't put him into wide receiver 1 consideration, really. I mean, even though he's a physical freak, he's only done it. This is his 4th year in the league. He's only gotten to wide receiver 1 status once, and it was off the back of 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. He got more targets, more receptions this year. He did score less touchdowns on it. It's going to be hard. Like Begg said, with Tyler Lockett there, man, that man's drinking from the fountain of youth, really. He's just getting older. You know what it is, and this is something, Mad Mob, that we joke about all the time, is we will be watching games, whether we all get together or we're at our own houses. We'll be texting back and forth in the group chat. And if you didn't notice before I say this, you will definitely notice if you see highlights or watch him next year.
He's going to ruin
But,
Tyler Lockett for you here in about 10 seconds.
dude, every single time Tyler Lockett catches the ball in the open, if he's not gone, if he's not absolutely running it for a touchdown, this man smashes the X button on the Xbox and just dives to the ground. He's preserving himself. He's looking out for number one. My man catches the ball and just dives forward just to make sure that he doesn't take any hits at all. And that's just how he's keeping on.
Yeah. We'll move on to the Consensus 20, the guy that I thought for sure I was going to hit on, and I missed heavily. We got Brandon Cooks. I had him as the WR13. Goni and Begley had him as the 24. ADP had him at 31. He hit as the 49. Missed 4 games. Finished with 700 yards, 3 touchdowns. Inside the top 24 only 3 times. Outside the top 48 times. He was in Houston. I mean, he was in the absolute worst offense in the NFL. He's going to be 30 next year. He wants out. And let's be honest, he's at the point where he's probably going to ring chase a little bit. So maybe that'll be good for him next year. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm hanging my hat on is, he missed 4 games, which is a decent chunk. And he was on the absolute worst offense in the NFL where their starting quarterback got benched. So, I mean, it is what it is with that one. Which, again, that's not an excuse because all of this information was there whenever we made our rankings. I just thought he could have pushed through it, and I underestimated how truly bad they were going to be because, honestly, I wasn't too down on Davis Mills coming into the year. I didn't think he was a stud, but I thought he was okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
To me, this is kind of the same vein. I'm going to look at DJ Moore next year, right? An anemic offense. And he's just a product of a horrible offense and subpar quarterback play.
He got it done last year, though, with the same pieces, essentially. Is this just him falling off, getting older, or what? He was just a model of consistency over his last, 7 years, really, before this season. There was only 1 year where he finished outside of even the top 20 over the last 7 years before this season. So, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's an outlier. He is 29 years old. I believe he's going to be 30 when next season starts. Where he ends up is going to be a major, deciding factor on his production. Can he get back to wide receiver 2? Sure. I think there's a path for that, but I believe he's got 2 years left on his deal, and wherever he goes, Houston's probably going to have to eat some of the salary to move him. So we'll see if, they just have this kind of grudge match. We saw that he sat out the game after the trade deadline passed because he was pretty upset he didn't get traded. So yeah, we'll see what happens with it.
Yep. We'll move on to the Consensus 21. We all missed on him. ADP missed on him. Not bad, but man, I've never been so happy to miss on a wide receiver. We had Jalen Waddle. I had him at the 23. Beggs had him at 22. Goni had him at 21. ADP had him at 18. He finished as a WR8. My boy finished with 1,300 plus yards, 8 touchdowns, 7 times inside the top 24, 4 times inside the top 7, only 5 times outside flex play. He was a little bit of boomer bust, but at the same time, when he was booming, he was booming. 6 games over 100 yards. When Tua was in there, he was a stud. I mean, he was an absolute stud. Tua was killing it. They've emerged as probably the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. Right there with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and you can't even put Keenan Allen, Mike Williams in there anymore because they're getting old and they're injury prone. Huh?
Lockett and DK.
Lockett and DK could be in that situation. Gabe Davis sucked, so the Bills duo is out. This was crazy. I mean, Jalen Waddle. That's kind of, I guess, why, and I guess you can call it a fade because I mean, he finished pretty good, the year before last. But we just thought Tua wasn't going to be able to get it done for two receivers, and he definitely did. He's cleared concussion protocol, so he should be on track to start next season. That being said, you know how concussions are. When it rains, it pours. So what do y'all feel about Jalen Waddle's outlook next year, Beggs?
I mean, I don't know how you can fade him. I mean, it's going to be hard putting two Dolphins back in my top 12, but I'm going to have to think really hard about it. With Tua and the new offense, they looked wonderful, man.
Yeah, Tua's healthy. I don't see how he does worse than like a wide receiver 15, really. Yeah. I think it's going to be more the same. That's kind of why we faded him. Like Wayne said, going into this year, is you're bringing in a guy like Tyreek Hill. You don't really know who's going to be the alpha. And we found out that Tyreek Hill is absolutely the alpha. He gets all the volume, but it's something that we talked about at the beginning of the season is Jalen Waddle's targets are going to go down. They utilized him as a very short threat last year. There's a lot of screens, there's a lot of short passes and run after the catch. And we were talking about at the beginning of the season that we think the volume goes down, but the yards per catch go up. And his yards per catch went up from 9 to 18. He led the league in yards per catch.
You know what? I appreciate you trying to give credit to the podcast, but that was you. You called that.
Yeah. Facts.
We're a team, man.
I don't know that we necessarily disagreed with you, but it was definitely a stat that you saw and a stat that you called was going to increase. So tip of the cap on that one. You hit the nail on the head there, and I agree with you going into next season. All right, 22, Scary Terry. I had him at the 20. Gonan Beggs had him at the 23. Round of applause, tip of the cap to the ADP. Had him at 14, and that's where he finished. It's his absolute best finish of his career. He finished as a WR25 last year. Finished with almost 1,200 yards and 5 touchdowns. 7 games inside the top 24. He did have 5 games putting up single-digit points. He did it with some quarterback issues, which is great for next season's outlook. He got a new offensive coordinator in Eric Bieniemy. God, I can't say his name right.
You got it.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Say it one more time. Let me make sure I said it right.
Bieniemy.
Are we sure that's right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Nailed
the
it.
enemy, but be enemy.
Yeah. So, new OC. Don't really know who his quarterback's going to be next year, do we?
Sam Howell. We're on record.
I hope not, man. You can't follow up this man's career year with Sam Howell next year.
He could be a stud.
Don't do it.
He could
Ron
be
Rivera can't be happy about that. Terry McLaurin right now, like this entire year is probably reflecting on like, man, I could have absolutely gotten an even bigger bag if Ryan Fitzpatrick just didn't get hurt last year. Just, it just buoyed the numbers. He would have had the best year of his career. Obviously, we don't know. It's a big what if situation, but Ryan Fitzpatrick would have probably been the best quarterback he's ever played with.
Probably, and let's be really honest, his quarterback next year is probably Taylor Heineke, right? Let's just be honest. All roads lead back to Heineke in Washington.
He was on
at least for another year.
He literally was on their season ticket package for next year. Like when they sent out the ads for season ticket orders for next season, Taylor Heineke was on them.
That's what I'm saying.
He was the featured player, Taylor Heineke.
All roads lead back to Heineke in Washington.
I'd rather have Heineke.
Not Deron Payne, not Chase Young, not one of these
Scary Terry
guys. Yeah, exactly, dude. Like you took Taylor Heineke, and now he is sitting the bench. But Beggs, you're right. All roads lead back to Heineke. I expect to see him in there about week 7.
There you go.
Yep, we'll see. All right, number 23. Man, we were close on this one. We had Jerry Jeudy. I had him at 26. Beggs at 21. Goni at 22, and he finished as a 22. ADP had him at the 19. Missed 3 games. Could have been a little bit better. Finished with just under 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. 8 finishes inside the top 24. He's going into the final year of his rookie deal. You know it. Broncos got Sean Payton. I think Jeudy emerged as the one this year. I mean, we based on our rankings, obviously I don't have to say it. We thought Cortland Sutton was going to be the number 1. Jeudy came out and was like, no, it's me. So how do y'all feel about him going into next year? Still a back end WR2, or do you see better things with Sean Payton coming in?
Judy's going to be hyped to mid wide receiver 2 levels next year in terms of redraft. I think back end wide receiver 2 is where I'm going to have him. But man, the guy's talented. He just needed a quarterback. He kind of got one this year, and it showed. Just even with as bad as Russell Wilson was, man, Jeudy shined.
I mean, he already was a back-end wide receiver 2 this year, man. He finished as 22, and that offense was trash.
He missed games.
I think he has, like, fringe wide receiver 1 potential. If everything plays out right. I'm not calling it yet in my way too early rankings, but I see the potentials there. The offense has so many more steps forward that they can take. I think Sean Payton is the perfect guy for this. And over his last 5 games, he showed out pretty good. Capped with one of them, he finished as the wide receiver 1. And I don't know if you guys remember the game. It was against the Kansas City Chiefs where he scored 3 touchdowns. This man was livid on the field. I remember watching it. There was something took place. I think like a penalty was called against him, or a penalty wasn't called on a defender that penalized him. And this man was absolutely irate and just goes on, and he scores 3 touchdowns, absolutely tears him up, finished as the wide receiver 1 for the week. He's got fire, man. He's got fire. He's got advanced metrics on his side. He just needs Russell Wilson to play like Russell Wilson has played. That's it.
Yep.
He's just, his hype is going to reach, he's going to be overvalued.
I could see it.
That's all I'm saying.
I can definitely see it.
You know, I'm a Jeudy fanboy through and through.
Lover. Yeah.
All right. I kind of when it came to the
Speaking of loving people,
when it came to the lengthy intro and who was our consensus 24, I made sure to leave us a solid 5 to 10 minutes to discuss this.
let's go.
Our consensus 24 is Hollywood Brown.
Boo.
I had him at the 30.
I was going to say, why, Wayne?
Huh?
Yeah. Why was he our consensus 24?
Stay tuned. You'll find out in 5 seconds. I had him at the 30. Goni had him at the 28. Begley had him at 13.
Had him what?
13.
What? 13.
1-3. He finished as a wide receiver 44. ADP had him at the 26. Missed 5 games, finished over 700 yards, 3 touchdowns. Averaged 18.2 points per game in the first 6 games when Hopkins was suspended and was the WR5 in that time frame. Averaged 10.6 targets per game. So let me stop there. Goni and I called that. Not as high. Goni and I called him being a high-end WR2, back-end WR1 while Hopkins was out. So it doesn't surprise me that he did very well through the first 6 games of the year.
He did what he was expected to do.
Before I go on with more of these stats, do you have anything you'd like to say up until this point?
I've got a lot of things to say, but you should finish because I've got a good 2 minutes of Hollywood talk in me.
Okay. When Hopkins was present, his average went down by over 50%. He went from 18.2 points per game without Hopkins to 9.4 points per game. His targets per game went down over 30%. That's the point we made, is that he's going to be good when Hopkins leaves, but he's going to see a huge decrease in output when Hopkins comes back, and that is exactly what happened. You're shaking your head, but stats don't lie. Numbers don't lie.
Shaking his head no, Mad Mob.
And that's just the facts. I'll let you speak on it.
So, before I get into my Hollywood tirade, an updated stats ranking before Hollywood, just let it be known, I was in first, Goni second, Wayne third. After the Hollywood debacle, I'm going to be sucking the hindest tit that my little mouth can find. I will be dead last. Spoiler alert, with a 31-point loss on Hollywood. Now,
wait, what were our wide receiver rankings?
He was winning.
I was winning. Goni was second, and you were third, Wayne. Spoiler, Goni will win. Wayne will be second, and I will be third, due solely to the fact that I planted my flag on Hollywood and I missed. Here's why. He was wide receiver 5 overall through 6 games. He got injured. He missed 5. When he came back, Kyler was hurt. So he got the hodgepodge of Arizona Cardinals quarterbacks that were not Kyler when he got back. He's an air yards monster, over 1,000 air yards, a 32% air yard share on his team, which is good for 17th in the league. He runs deep routes, and he gets the ball deep. He had a dominator rating of 28%, which is good for 19th in the league. The stats are there for Hollywood. He got injured. Kyler got hurt. That was raps.
D-Hop played with the same hodgepodge and did just fine.
D-Hop got Kyler Murray in the span that Hollywood Brown was out, and that padded his stats.
He did just fine with the hodgepodge.
Beggs, does it make you feel any better that you could have planted the flag and still won this if you just hadn't planted it so hard?
Well, here's, when you look at the numbers and how he started the year, right, as the main weapon, I think he exceeded even my expectations being wide receiver 5, right? He was a monster. If he doesn't get injured and he keeps that same pace, I think he builds up a good enough cushion to insulate himself from a drop in production when D-Hop comes back, which is what I was banking on.
So you know what? Let's do a little experiment here real quick, okay? Hollywood. Let's see. I just want to pull up what his total points was. He missed 5 games, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he had 156 points in PPR scoring. 156 points. We'll give him 50 more points. He averaged 9.4 a game. We'll bring it up to 10, and we'll add 50 points to him. So he had 156. We said, let's find out what it would have been. 156 and 50 would have been 206. It would have brought him to the wide receiver 22, 2 points over Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, he would have been a top 24 wide receiver. Absolutely. But 13, bro, is 13. That was the only thing. I didn't have a problem with you putting him in the top 24 by any means. Wayne and I weren't that far off. We did 28 and 30 respectively. It's just 13 was rough.
It was certainly optimistic, but he's going back to a scheme he ran in college with Kyler. He was going to be a 2 alongside Hopkins, which I thought on a team that passes just about more than anybody else in the league since Cliff Kingsbury's been there. There was enough of a passing pod to sustain 2 guys. And I thought Hopkins would take some of the pressure off of him. Plus, mean, Hollywood posted wide receiver 2 numbers with Lamar and Baltimore's offense, which, as you say a lot, that is an absolutely horrendous passing offense, which it is. I thought he was due for an explosion, but injuries cost me that one.
It happens.
So with the 31-point Hollywood Delta, I have 331 points for all wide receivers relative to their actual finish. Wayne is second with 326. So he is 5 points off. And first is Goni with 322, 9 ahead of me and 4 ahead of Wayne. So Goni is the unofficial winner of the wide receivers.
Let's get it. Quarterbacks, wide receivers. It's good to be king.
Running backs. It's good to be king.
It's good to be king.
Beggs?
Begley?
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Don't worry, we have tight ends to do, man. I'm sure there will be all kinds of disparity in that, and
I can't wait. We could have a whole segment just on Kelsey and Mark Andrews for that one.
Nah, it's not
It's
necessary.
a you and Wayne battle.
Not necessary.
Well, no, Gone. I think you were right there.
I was on the Kelsey side, my guy.
No, you were not. You're on the Andrews side.
I'll see if that reflected in the rankings. I guarantee you I had Kelsey at number 1.
You had Mark Andrews at number 1, my good sir.
All right. I guess we'll see.
When Wayne and I took the doink, I remember your commentary. It singed through me like a hot poker.
All right. Well, just know that when I crunch the numbers for our show next week and I had Kelsey at number 1, you'll be hearing from me. And if I had Mark Andrews, I'll forget it ever happened.
Absolutely.
Let's finish this off real quick with the outlook for Hollywood in the future with Arizona picking up his option. Hopkins probably going to be out. Kyler possibly not starting. And Cliff Kingsbury out.
The most underrated receiver in redraft leagues next year. The most underrated.
Hollywood?
Yeah. I think Hollywood will be drafted in the wide receiver 3 territory, maybe around 6, 7. And I'll be grabbing him every time.
Okay, so another positive outlook.
I like him next year. I really do.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be good next year. It is what it is.
Wayne, are you taking Devonta Smith or Hollywood next year in a redraft?
Devonta.
Christian Kirk or Hollywood in a redraft?
Hollywood. But that's a good comp for me.
Christian Kirk, okay.
If Calvin Ridley wasn't going to be in Jacksonville, I'd probably lean more Christian Kirk.
Goni, Mike Williams or Hollywood Brown redraft?
Whew, man. Give me Mike Williams.
Okay.
I'm ready to be hurt again.
Chris
With a full
Olave.
year of Keenan Allen.
Chris Olave or Hollywood Brown?
Redraft?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, Chris Olave.
Probably Chris Olave.
Okay. All right, fair.
It's just my thing with that is Kyler Murray. I don't know if Kyler Murray is going to be ready for the season opener as he returns from the torn ACL. He tore it in December. Long recovery, long wait time. Hopefully everything goes well for him. He can start by the first game of the season. But I've seen some reports that it could be anywhere up to halfway through. So I just don't like David Blau throwing him passes. Yeah.
Fair.
All right. This was a good one. Goni, you're wide receiver king. Myself in second, and Begley sucking hind tit. I didn't add it up, but the ADP beat us in wide receivers overall. The ADP was right more often than we were right on that. We had our flag planted on a couple guys. Our WR1s, there was a lot of injuries that caused us to miss. WR2s, not really going to blame the injuries too much. Just a volatile position, and it is what it is.
Yeah, to me, the number one correlation, we missed on guys who played on bad offenses. That might be common sense. People like Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, Mooney, Sutton, Cooks, bad offense.
Well, again, like you said before, our logic is sound. A bad offense is a team that's behind. A team that's behind is a team that passes.
Yeah.
We just underestimated how truly bad it was. So the logic was okay, but it didn't come to fruition.
That's right.
I don't know. It might take it in. I'm like Begley, like Goni said about Mike Williams. I'll probably use close to the same logic next year. I'm ready to be hurt again.
Yep.
All right, Mad Mob. The beautiful NFL Combine for MVP.